It was January 26, 1966, a bright, sunny summer day in Adelaide, Australia. The beaches were packed with families celebrating the national holiday. Among them were 3 siblings: Jane, age 9, Arnna, age 7, and Grant, just 4 years old. The Beaumont children were excited, full of energy, and known by everyone in their neighborhood. That morning, they begged their mother, Nancy, to let them take the short bus ride to Glenelg Beach by themselves, something they had done before. The bus stop was only a few minutes away, and the beach was just a short ride from their quiet suburban home. It was supposed to be a normal, carefree day. But they never came back. When the children failed to return by lunchtime, Nancy began to worry. By the time their father, Jim, returned home around 3 p.m., panic had already set in. They rushed to the bus stop, to the beach, and to every friend's house they could think of, calling their names until the sun began to set. But the laughter of 3 children that once filled their home was gone. What began as a missing persons report quickly spiraled into one of the largest investigations in Australian history. Witnesses came forward describing a man seen with the Beaumont children at the beach earlier that day. He was tall, thin, blonde, and tanned, wearing blue swim trunks. Several people said the children seemed comfortable with him, as though they already knew him. He played with them in the sand, laughed with them, and even watched them swim. At around noon, they were seen buying pastries and soft drinks from a local bakery, a purchase Jane reportedly paid for with a £1 note, something her parents hadn't given her. That detail shook investigators. Where had she gotten the money? Who gave it to her? The timeline of that day became a puzzle of shifting accounts and haunting clues. The bus driver remembered seeing the children on their way to the beach, but no one could confirm seeing them get on the return bus home. Hours turned into days, days into weeks, and still no sign of Jane, Arnna, or Grant. Police combed the beaches, the dunes, every house, and every drain. Hundreds of volunteers joined the search. But it was as if the earth had swallowed them whole. Then came the first strange twist. A local woman claimed she saw the children walking away from the beach later that afternoon, still accompanied by the same man. They were laughing, holding hands. The woman said Jane appeared calm, as if she trusted him completely. That was the last confirmed sighting. From that moment on, the Beaumont children vanished without a trace. As the days passed, Adelaide was gripped by fear. The disappearance of the Beaumont children shattered the country's sense of safety. Parents stopped letting their kids out of sight, the beaches once filled with laughter grew quiet, and the police were under enormous pressure to find answers. Investigators chased every possible lead, interviewing witnesses, analyzing bus routes, and questioning anyone who might have seen something unusual that day. But every clue seemed to fade into nothing. When detectives searched the children's home, they found nothing missing, no sign that they had planned to leave. The children had been happy, well cared for, and close to their parents. The only small oddity was something their mother mentioned. Jane, the eldest, had recently been talking about a new friend they'd met at the beach, a man they liked playing with. Nancy hadn't thought much of it at the time. It was the 1960s, a more trusting era, and the thought of danger seemed far away. But that comment took on chilling significance in hindsight. Police believed the man the children were last seen with was likely the same friend Jane had mentioned. But who was he? Composite sketches were drawn, descriptions circulated across the country, and the reward for information grew larger each week. Yet despite thousands of tips, no suspect was ever confirmed. Months later, a psychic claimed the children's bodies were buried near a local warehouse site, prompting an excavation. Nothing was found. Another tip suggested they'd been taken interstate by a man posing as a family friend. Again, no trace. The mystery only deepened with time. Then, in 1968, 2 years after the disappearance, the Beaumonts received a letter written in a childish hand, claiming to be from one of the missing children. The letter said they were living happily with a man who took care of them and that they wanted to come home. Days later, another letter arrived, this time written by the supposed abductor himself, promising to return the children if the parents met him. The meeting was arranged. But the man never came. When police analyzed the letters, they discovered they were a cruel hoax written by a disturbed individual who had nothing to do with the case. The emotional toll on the Beaumont family was devastating. Years turned into decades, and the case became Australia's most infamous unsolved mystery. The police files grew into boxes upon boxes of dead leads and conflicting testimonies. Theories emerged and faded, some plausible, some wild. One suspect, a convicted child predator named Bevan Spencer von Einem, was investigated heavily, but no evidence tied him to the Beaumonts. Another theory linked the case to notorious murderer Arthur Stanley Brown, who matched the description of the man seen on the beach. Still, nothing concrete ever surfaced. Each time hope flickered, it was extinguished just as quickly. The parents never moved away from their home, holding on to the impossible hope that one day, the door would open and their children would walk back in. They kept the same phone number for over 40 years, just in case. By the late 1980s, the Beaumont case had become more than a tragedy, it was a haunting legend whispered across Australia. Generations grew up knowing their names, their faces printed on faded posters and in schoolbooks warning of stranger danger. Yet behind all the theories and public speculation was the quiet, enduring grief of two parents who never stopped waiting. Jim and Nancy Beaumont's lives froze on that summer day in 1966, their home preserved like a time capsule of the children's laughter that once filled it. Then came a moment of renewed hope decades later. In 1998, investigators revisited an abandoned factory property that had once been owned by a man named Harry Phipps, a wealthy, eccentric businessman who lived not far from Glenelg Beach at the time of the disappearance. His son later came forward claiming he had seen his father digging a large hole on the property around the same period. Police conducted ground-penetrating radar scans of the site, uncovering anomalies that could have been disturbed soil or graves. But when they finally dug, there was nothing. No remains, no evidence, just cold earth. Once again, the case slipped back into silence. As technology advanced, new forensic methods offered a glimmer of possibility. Police began re-examining physical evidence, clothing fibers, soil samples, and witness statements, with fresh eyes. In 2013, another excavation was launched at the same factory site after new information surfaced, but it ended the same way, empty. Each failed search seemed to deepen the sense that whatever happened that day, it had been perfectly concealed. Some investigators believe the children were lured by the man they trusted, perhaps promised sweets, a game, or a puppy, and then taken away in a moment of opportunity. Others think the abduction was planned, that the suspect had been watching the family for weeks, waiting for the right time. There were reports of strange men near the Beaumont home in the days before the disappearance, but nothing ever led to a breakthrough. Over the decades, countless theories have emerged, that the children were buried under new buildings, taken overseas, sold, or even raised under new identities. But the truth remains lost. The last of the Beaumont family's hope faded quietly in the early 2000s when Jim and Nancy both passed away, never knowing what happened to their children. Today, the case still stands as one of the darkest chapters in Australia's history, a symbol of innocence lost and mystery without end. Every few years, new tips resurface, new documentaries air, and new witnesses claim to remember something long forgotten. Yet the one truth that matters most, where Jane, Arnna, and Grant went that summer day, has never been found. Some mysteries stay frozen in time, preserved in the echoes of laughter that once drifted over the sand. The Beaumont children walked down to Glenelg Beach on a bright holiday morning, and somewhere between the waves and the horizon, they disappeared from the world.